and David King.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is a pre-council meeting for the city of Joliet. Honorable Robert Odekirk presiding.
We'll begin with roll call. Mayor Odekirk.
Here.
Councilman Dickinson.
Here.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Here.
Councilman Hug.
Here.
Councilman Morris.
Here.
Councilman Mudrin.
Here.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Here.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Here.
Councilman Turk.
Here.
The presentations on tonight's agenda will be held at a later meeting, so we will move it over to citizens to be heard on agenda items. Is there anyone present that would like to speak on an agenda item this evening?
Support.
Good evening. My name is Eric Deshawn Doris, resident of 624 Francis Street in Joliet. I'm here to speak on the proposed ordinance for the Joliet Arts Commission, and just to reiterate the importance of this ordinance to support the arts and culture in Joliet. When I came and spoke to the Land and Use Committee last week, we spoke briefly about the need to repair murals and existing art around the city, as well as to take advantage of other opportunities that are available to artists and arts organizations and citizens in Joliet who can benefit from an increase in support and advocacy for the arts and cultural sector. As you know, and I said last week, when you start to support artists, you then begin to support economic development. You do that through attracting artists to the city by supporting artists in the city that are already here making art. And by doing that, you create a system of commerce and a system of business development that happens across the entire region. I believe that Joliet is the third largest city in Illinois. I think that's still true, correct? And we are the only city out of the top 10 cities, the 10 largest cities in Illinois, that do not have an arts guild or an arts commission. I think it's very important for us to look at this ordinance with some seriousness, to think about it in a very planned, professional, and strategic way, that it will affect every citizen in Joliet and the surrounding region. It will go from the east side to the west side, and on both sides of the river, people will begin to build other bridges besides the ones that are physically here, because they will begin to see how their cultures and their art forms are connected to each other. That's all I have. Does anyone have questions for me?
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much for allowing me to speak. My name is Erin Blazer, 803 Fleetwood Drive, Joliet. And I wanted to talk about the Arts Commission from an educational standpoint. I'm an art educator and also a local artist. And to have had this at a younger age, to have these opportunities to connect and work with artists and to go, hey, this is my voice in the community, to give those opportunities and chances where artists can connect in the classroom as well as in art education from a very young age through high school. You can see growth and change and also improvement in many students' lives, arts impacts, and for them to have that local voice from a young age level is extremely important. So it'd be great to be able to have that opportunity to connect with the school districts as well as other organizations with youth at a young age, and then having them work with artists. There's a great opportunity to be had. Is there any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Teresa Rouse, Superintendent, Joliet Public Schools, District 86, also a citizen of Joliet, address 908 Ann Street. I'm here to speak again on behalf of the Arts Commission in support of it. When I first came to Joliet, our art programs began at 3rd and 4th grade. We have since extended art and music all the way down to the kindergarten level and have seen amazing differences in our students' excitement and enthusiasm about school. By doing that, it provides our teachers opportunity for collaboration time. But now our students have highly qualified art teachers and music teachers all the way down to kindergarten, and the Arts Commission would be something that would help support our work in moving forward. those partnerships with artists in the community and with other arts organizations are only going to make us stronger. Partnerships always make us stronger, and this commission will allow us to extend those partnerships beyond our own borders into the surrounding community at large. So I'm very much excited about the idea of an arts commission being established for the city of Joliet and how we can partner to work with it in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kayla Zagrossi. I live downtown Joliet here. I've lived downtown for 9 years, and I've grown up in Joliet. I'm going to keep it very short and sweet because this is not planned for me. But I travel for business. That's what I do with my career. And everywhere I go, I somehow leave with something that influenced me or impacted me in some way, shape, or form. And funny, it's always come back to it being some kind of art form. So I think the collaboration and the idea behind this is fantastic. Also, I'm not an artist. I can't draw a circle if you paid me to, and I have a passion for this. So I really hope to see this approved. Are there any questions for me? Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Can you draw me a circle?
If this passes, I might be able to. Learn about the artist.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, good evening. I'd like to talk about the job qualification proposal there for city manager. Right now, you currently have a minimum of 8 years' experience of progressive responsible municipal government administrative management experience. You're proposing minimum of 6 months of previous city manager experience for the city manager job description. That's down from the 8 years. That's really, really low. And we're the third largest city in the state of Illinois, the highest paid job at City Hall, outside of your job, Mr. Mayor. And so why settle for such a low amount of experience? And then leadership roles, you put in there including military experience. It was kind of handpicked to put that in, but why not all leadership roles in community jobs? CEOs of company or business owners or whatever that displayed a leadership role. So, I don't know why we just included the military experience. And so then on the temporary city manager job you're proposing, you said, again, 8 years of experience down to a minimum of 1 year of previous city manager experience. And again, the same comments I made on the other one. And I don't think you really need the interim city manager position because on Chapter 2, the administration on city code, city ordinance rather, we already have a job description we discussed before. Steve Jones, for example, deputy city manager / economics director. And you currently have one for deputy city clerk. You have that the person takes off in the event a city clerk can't perform their job. You have one for assistant city treasurer, in the absence or incapacity of the treasurer acts in his behalf. You've got one for deputy city collector. You've got one for the director of public works to act as a city engineer in the absence. So why are you wanting to create a new job description for the absence of a city manager when you already have one? I think there was a lot of time spent on this issue. I think people think that this job description was needed and is being held up and so on to get the process of a selection of a new city manager, and it's really not needed because you already have one under the city ordinance. So that's my opinion on the new classification.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Mary Beth Gannon, Joliet resident, Western Avenue. I took a look at the Mudron 5's payroll for last year, and when I add up your salaries, it comes to $105,140.01. When I look at the cost of bringing Mr. Hawk here, that's going to be an extra $108,000 burden on the taxpayer. You were paying Marty $192. Mr. Hawk coming here is going to be $300,000 for a whole year. How do you justify that? I have a solution for some of you who think it's okay to waste the taxpayers' money. I'm formally asking anyone who wants to vote for Mr. Hawk to forego your salary to pay the difference. It's only the right thing to do. And I really hope some of you really rethink your vote, because the vote for Mr. Hawk is political suicide. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on an agenda item? Seeing none, we'll pass it to the interim city manager to discuss tomorrow night's items.
Thank you. Good evening. First off, let me apologize for the meeting delay for the public as well as council. We had kind of an active public service committee agenda, so we went a little bit over, so we're sorry for that. Tomorrow night, we'll have council meeting reports, an awful lot of them. We'll have economic development, finance, land use legislative, public safety, public service, along with a water conservation subcommittee annual report. So there'll be a lot of talking about things happening at the committee and volunteer level. Under consent agenda, typically we have the approval of minutes as well as invoices paid. Tomorrow will be no difference. Under Council Memo 363-19, under position vacancies, we have 5 positions, 4 of which are filling by retirement. We have 2 battalion chiefs in the fire department, along with 2 patrol officers. The 5th position is something that is a proposed new public safety IT professional. Previously, our IT work within the police department was done by a uniformed officer. That officer has now returned to police work, and our IT department brought in a consultant to basically keep a handle on all of the IT needs. Based on analysis and the fact that the consultant is working very well with our staff, there's a recommendation that was made to CTIS with regard to converting that consulting position to a full-time position. And the cost estimate is that there'll be about a $50,000 annual savings because of the fact that the consultant costs more. So that is, that's a position vacancy, and there's a budget amendment coming up that also deals with that. Council Member 36419 is our annual renewal of our property and casualty coverages. Arthur J. Gallagher, who's our consultant, has done the competitive bidding of all the various lines of coverage. It is going to involve a 2.4% increase from our current coverage. Some of the lines have increased, some have reduced, but overall it's a $629,815 package, and that'll be reviewed by the Finance Committee. Under agenda items,
Mayor,
Yes.
quick question to go back a step
Sure.
there, Steve, to the converting the
IT? Sure,
the
sorry.
IT consultant to permanent. And it's probably a question for David Brainer. Traditionally, my understanding with IT consultants are when you have a consultancy, you can have somebody that's a hardware expert, a software expert, other specific jobs. And so a different person from that consulting firm could react to a different problem depending on their specialty. If we combine it down to one individual, are we eliminating the need for consultants completely and saving that $50,000? Or does that person specialize in something?
Long-term, we really wouldn't want to have a full-time consultant in the PD for security reasons. That would be the biggest reason for moving a consultant to full-time. As far as the specialty goes, this individual is going to be focusing on the laptops. We have about 200 of them, and this goes back to the Benton era and before. We had an audit done of those laptops, and they're very deficient in multiple levels of security. So the focus for this individual is to get those laptops up to par, and then also be a consistent resource to allow the officers to have a go-to person that they can count on. So I'm not sure if I answered your question of why we're doing this, but to have this dedicated individual there, this is kind of a hybrid between software and hardware, because we're re-imaging the laptops, bringing them to Windows 10. We're also training them. We're also doing hardware upgrades for the laptops at the same time. So it's kind of a jack of all trades role, which this individual is, for my entire staff, if I ranked customer service, acceptance, I would rank this individual number 2 of about a dozen. So he's done extremely well.
Okay. I believe I said everything I needed to say about the property and casualty coverages. Any questions on that? Under agenda items, Council Memo 366, the Legislative and Land Use Committee had been tasked with looking at the job description for both the city manager as well as the interim city manager. After several meetings, they did unanimously approve that the two job descriptions you have in your packet be approved. We utilized strikeouts, highlights to identify any changes from the original city manager job description. And of course, the interim job description is brand new. So again, those were recommended by Legislative and Land Use. Any questions on that? Council Memo 367, this is a motion to approve an employment agreement for interim city manager. This is on the agenda. Obviously, there's a motion for executive session to discuss personnel. Aspects of this hopefully will be discussed later this evening. Licenses and permit applications. Our Deputy Liquor Commissioner will present his findings on 4 applications.
Mayor, City Council. First is Council Member 369-19. A public hearing was held on June 19, 2019 for a transfer of a Class E license. The applicant is Marcella Pacelis, Azteca Restaurant Bar No. 2, Inc., DBA Azteca Restaurant No. 2. Location is 709 Collins Street. No persons appeared in oppositions. No outstanding monies owed to the city. The police and fire department have no issues. The building departments need to do a final inspection upon approval. Based on the facts and the facts of the hearing, the Liquor Commissioner is recommending approval. Council Member 370-19. A public hearing was held on June 19, 2019 for a request of a Class C license. The applicant is Hector Murillo, Bella's Convenience Inc., DBA 711. The location is 325 South Larkin Avenue. No persons appeared in opposition. No outstanding monies are owed to the city. The police, fire, and building department have no issues. Based on the facts and the facts of the hearing, the Liquor Commission is recommending approval. A public hearing was held on June 19, 2019 for a request for issuance of a Class B license. The applicant is Yvette Mary Cruz, El Morjate Restaurant Inc. No. 2, DBL El Morjate Restaurant No. 2. Location is 116 Hobolt Road, Suite A. No persons appeared in opposition. There's no outstanding monies owed to the city. Police and fire department have no issues. Based on the facts and the facts of the hearing, Liquor Commission is recommending approval. Last is 372-19. A public hearing was held on June 19, 2019 for a request for issuance of a Class B license. The applicant is Pedro Rojas Corp., DBA Carnitas Asilo Michoacana. The location is 627 West Jefferson Street. No persons appeared in opposition. There are no outstanding monies owed to the city. Police, fire, and building department have no issues. Based on the facts and the facts of the hearing, Liquor Commission is recommending approval. Any questions?
Questions?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just that first one, 360.
369-19 on Collins Street, yes.
Yeah, you had mentioned about the building department. I see they're not approving it, but you said that's because they haven't done
They have to finish up the thing. So anybody that ever does a license, the building department has to sign off. So you cannot get your liquor license from us at the city until the building department sends us an email and lets us know that everything has been fixed before.
Okay.
So they have to fix everything before they get the license.
So he's not approving it at this time just because they haven't done.
You can approve the license, but he can't get the license, physically have the license, and without our license, you can't get a state license in order to start purchasing alcohol.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Continuing the agenda, under public hearings, we have 2 public hearings on the agenda. One, which is Council Memo 374, that's the development related to the Cobalt Commercial Subdivision. That is being requested to be tabled to August 20th by the petitioner. That's the northeast corner of Route 59 in Theodore. That also happens to be the parcel where the CarMax development is slated. The second public hearing is Council Memo 375-19, which involves 2.81 acres of property at 25722 Caton Farm Road, which is slated for annexation and annexation agreement along with a special use permit. This is unusual property because it has some business uses at the present time, and it's coming in under residential. And there's a fairly lengthy list of things that have to be complied with within the annexation agreement. Plan Commission did provide unanimous recommendation to approve, and I'll point out that the petitioner's attorney is here, and he would like to address the council on this.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mike Hansen on behalf of the petitioner Salvatore Hernandez. Unfortunately, Mr. Hernandez is in Mexico tonight and couldn't make it here before the council meeting. There's really one thing I want to just mention to the council. The council memo states that my client is intending to pay a development fee for this property. We had discussed the non-payment of a development fee based on the fact that as you read our agreement and the staff report, understandably the staff is requiring a lot of requirements for Mr. Hernandez for this property in order to update it, put it in compliance with the city, and make it a property that the neighbors would want to be residing next to. We've had a couple neighborhood meetings, so I didn't want to mislead the council. I wanted to make sure that the council was aware the annexation agreement does not provide for the payment of a development fee. We are paying all the other fees of the city to connect to the sewer and water system and all the other various fees, et cetera. So I just wanted to be clear on that matter. I think it's a development which the neighbors will be proud of, and we've worked hard to make sure that this is something that will be compatible and is in conformance with city code. So that's really the only thing I wanted to mention tonight to the council.
Mayor? Yes. Mr. Hanson, and they had their meeting?
Yes,
We had our meeting out with Stone City, was it?
we had 2 meetings.
Well, the second one.
Right.
Okay, I've gotten no call, so that's good. I think it's going well. Kendall, so that was an oversight in the council memo by saying that they would be paying the fee. Is it correct? They won't be paying the development fee?
Yes, I believe that was an oversight. It's not in the annexation agreement. All other fees are appropriate. I think there'll be sewer and water tap on for the house. Any kind of building permit fees would be in order here, but the development impact fee probably got carried over from some previous report.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Continuing, under ordinances and resolutions, Council Memo 377-19 is a budget amendment that includes the budget amendment, a change order, and a final payment request of $57,347.88. This is to pay for the parking lot improvements that were done at the old State's Attorney building. This wasn't something in the original budget. However, priorities of the city were to get that paved in anticipation of our summer festival season. Public Service Committee has recommended approval of that. Next item, Council Memo 378-19. This is an ordinance that basically starts the process of implementing the request to extend our city center TIF for 12 years. It establishes a public hearing date for the TIF discussion, which is set for September 17th if this is passed. It also indicates that there'll be a joint review board meeting of various taxing bodies on August 27th. This isn't anything new. We've been talking about this extension for a while. In fact, it was a goal of our 2015 downtown plan. Our Economic Development Committee discussed this back in March when they supported the hiring of a consultant. So this starts the process. And just to talk about the process, with normal TIFs or major amendments to TIFs, it's locally controlled. Whenever you're doing an extension of time, going from 23 years to 35 years, the state legislature has to be involved. So what we anticipate happening is that the city, at the earliest, could actually get this thing wrapped up by October 1st, and at the same time, we'll try to get our local legislators to get a bill introduced to allow that 12-year extension to happen. when they get down to Springfield, there are many towns that are doing this type of thing. I mean, it tends to be a rubber stamp, provided that there is local support. So this starts that process. Any questions on that? Ordinance 379-19. This is an amendment to our annual budget to do something sort of creative and interesting that was cooked up by our fire department and finance department and fleet people. The city presently has 17 ambulances, of which about 11 are in serious need of replacement. There was an application made to the state fire marshal's office to get a $200,000 low-interest loan. And when you're talking about 1.89% interest for 10 years, that's pretty much free money. So we were successful, and we're bringing forward the acceptance of that low-interest loan. City would have to come up with $100,000 because these ambulances aren't $200,000, they're more like $300,000, but it would be pretty lucrative in terms of our overall financing. We will be coming to council as the budget process starts for additional vehicles. In fact, some of that will be starting discussion at the Finance Committee, but this is something that will help us get at least one ambulance at fairly cheap money. So I believe it's also on public safety as well as
Tomorrow.
finance. Yeah, so those two committees will weigh in, and certainly the reports that are given will cover how they felt about it. Any questions? Council Memo 380-19. This is an ordinance amending the budget that references that IT position that we had talked about.
Quick question, Mayor.
Yes.
I'm assuming we had in the budget a set-aside amount for the consulting services, correct? Is this just housekeeping then, so that we can shift that money over to a full-time salary, or are we actually adding $58,000 to the budget? And if we are, how are we saving money?
We don't have budget to keep the consultant between now and the end of the year. So this is the delta that you're looking at there is the amount that we would need to move him to full-time and pay for his full-time salary through the end of the year. So it is an increase in spend.
Okay, so David, what you're saying is the budget for that consulting ran dry, so we would, if we didn't do this, we'd have to do a budget amendment to keep the consultant on.
Yeah, and it would be higher.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. About double, yeah.
Next item is is Council Memo 381, and this is the ordinance to establish a City of Joliet Arts Commission. To say that this concept was initiated by community members would probably be an understatement. You've already heard some of them. We've had several discussions about this concept at our Legislative and Land Use Committee. And basically, the commission is really intended to do a couple things. It's intended to focus upon the arts in Joliet. There's a vibrant arts movement that's sort of decentralized, and obviously a town that has the Rialto and the Forge and the prison and the various pieces of the educational part of this that enter into arts, but not have some sort of focus, as Eric had talked about, is a little surprising. So it really creates the focus. Two, it gives a forum for the arts community to provide recommendations on potential arts initiatives within the city. It provides a focus for the artists and people interested in art to collaborate with each other. And then lastly, and something that many of us will appreciate, it's also a commission that will be heavily involved in identifying and applying for grants. There are any number of grants that are out there if you have an arts organization, but a municipality or a governmental entity really aren't eligible. So I think this pulls that whole package together, and if this is approved by council and land use was excited about it, this is the sort of process where by, I'd say, 2 or 3 days, the mayor will have a list of a ton of people who've already expressed interest, representing various institutions, organizations, movements within town. So I think the community has spoken. Any questions on that?
So at this point, it's an advisory council. We're not assigning any kind of a promise of money or financial support to it.
No, it's a Total Policy Advisory Commission. Could this commission, if formed, ask for money in the future? Absolutely. Could they bring in money through grant sources that doesn't involve the city? Absolutely. So I think the things I talked about, that doesn't even get into the doing of art in terms of some of the restoration efforts or creating, some maintenance program for the things that we already have. I mean, we need to find out what's out there, what apples can we pull off the tree and get this thing started. And if there's some synergies, I think you'll see some good things with some outside sources of funding. That would be my prediction. Next item is Council Memo 382-19. This is to be tabled. This is the Boulevards development that involves both Joliet and Plainfield. Under resolutions, we have Council Memo 383-19. This is a resolution authorizing a development agreement for 110 through 116 North Chicago Street, also known as the 2 Rialto Square building. You recall that John Bays, who's here with his attorney, by the way, purchased the building via an auction back in December. And since that time, he's been involved in replacing mechanicals, taking care of the roof leaks, doing any number of things that basically were not done over the last decade or so. Mr. Bays is talking about turning the building into modern office space. And you think about the building, there's a 6-story building along with a 1.5-story building that used to house the Gallery 7 space. He's looking to do office space within the 6-story building, restaurant, lounge type entertainment use in the smaller building. And being a wise businessman, he's also keeping his options open with the top 3 floors. If he doesn't feel there's a market for office immediately, he's talking about the potential for either hotel or for residential. We negotiated an incentive deal. It took a while. John got mad at me a couple times, but in effect, I think we came up with a deal that was, it was fair to both the city and to Mr. Bays in terms of the things he needs to do in this particular project. This will be the first TIF deal since I've been here, and maybe even since TIFs existed downtown, where we didn't do 100% rebate. And we certainly expressed to Mr. Bays the need for some of the public projects to start receiving some of the benefits of the TIF district. And he's certainly well aware of that, and his building would benefit from some of that public investment as well. So what this does is it's just property tax, it's just increment, and the city keeps the first $25,000 per year. And then Mr. Bays, as the EAV in the property tax load exceeds above that, then he's able to get a rebate of that amount subject to whatever the maximum budget amount is. With that, Mr. Bays and Mr. Attorney are here for any questions, or you want to make any sort of comments? Any questions from council?
Just to clarify, Steve, the $25,000, that's currently what the taxes are.
No, taxes are pretty much zero.
Are they?
Because of the fact that it was publicly owned.
That's right, that's
right.
right.
And as the attorneys moved out, the assessor indicated that the EAV that was created, very small bits of EAV, were based upon lease value,
right,
not building value. So it'll pretty much be a zero, well, it will be a zero base building. So, and Economic Development Committee also recommended approval of this. Any questions? Council Memo 384-19. The attorney who's involved in this real estate purchase asked for this to be pulled from the agenda, so this will not appear on tomorrow's meeting. Just some details, some vacation schedules interfered with some final language, so nothing earth-shattering. Next item, Council Memo 385-19. This is an intergovernmental agreement with Joliet Township to allow us to install a 24-inch sanitary sewer on Porter Street. Since this is a township roadway, we're required to get official concurrence. This was discussed in public service and was recommended for approval, and we certainly appreciate the cooperation of the township to help us get this done. Any questions? Council Memo 386-19. This is one of our MFT appropriation items you see on occasion. This is to actually fund the Phase 3 engineering for the Washington Street Bridge project. Total amount here is $18,683. Council Memo 387-19, also resolution appropriating MFT funds. This is a little bit bigger project than 18,000. This is our MFT resurfacing project, Contract B. This would fund streets throughout the city, and the total is $999,510.55. This was discussed in public service as well. Council Memo 388-19. Every year, the city has to adopt an action plan that's used for our CDBG program with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And this resolution would approve our 2019 annual action plan. There are a number of projects that have been identified. Our grand total that we expect to get is $932,157. The list was approved by our Land Use and Legislative Committee and was also the topic of a public hearing. So, any questions?
Mayor? Yes. What is the $90,000 that's going to be spent on Evergreen Terrace?
Well, that is for their social service program. Basically, they do counseling, job preparation, job outreach for the tenants in the development there.
And what is the 30,000 unnamed consultants?
I don't have. Bear with me. The 30,000 for consultants. That is for the consultant that the city hires every year to help us through the process with HUD. This is an expenditure that we do annually.
Oh, and the 90,000 is, I believe, are we required to give that to Holston to do their outreach?
We're not required to do it, but it was part of our agreement with Holston.
Thank you.
Next item is Council Memo 389-19. This is a resolution that it would accept a grant from the Illinois Housing Development Authority in the amount of $250,000. We were successful in applying for this. It's a grant that's utilized for maintaining, securing, or demolishing abandoned properties. This was something that was also discussed at Legislative and Land Use, and there was a recommendation that this be accepted. Any questions? Bids and contracts. Council Memo 391. We have our annual Hickory Creek Spring Cleaning Program. This is something that was bid out. George Dobzik Excavating received the low bid, or was submitted the low bid in the amount of $60,000. This was part of our public service approval today. Number 2 on this list, Council Memo 392-19. This is a 2019 contract for our sewer root program. Duke's Root Control is a firm we've used in the past. It's sole source because the chemical process within the sewers work well without disrupting the biology of our wastewater treatment. It's $199,335. Our Public Service Committee has recommended approval, and our staff has indicated that this has been a successful program. Council Memo 393-19. This is a request for authorization to approve a repair to a well motor at well 23. $140,946 necessary to get a factory rebuilt motor. Lane Christensen is the firm being recommended. This was recommended for approval by Public Service. Council Memo 394-19. This is a contract. This is the part of the contract to spend the money. We've already approved the MFT appropriation, but this is our 2019 roadway resurfacing contract. It's recommended that Austin Tyler, who submitted the low bid, be awarded the contract. And once again, that's $999,510.44. Any questions? Council Memo 395-19. This is a request from our police department to replace their aging Segways, which were purchased in 2013 with 2 new units. The cost of the units and the necessary equipment is $29,963. And I'm sure we'll see Segways all over downtown if the council approves this. Council Memo 396-19. This is a authorization for a maintenance agreement for our public safety radios for both police and fire. And these are radios that are not on warranty. So these are non-warranted radios. $28,051.92 is the annual maintenance amount. Any questions? We're down into amendments, change orders, and payments. The 5 items on this list were all considered by Public Service today and recommended for approval. And unless anyone has any questions, I won't go into details on those.
Next is public comments. Is there anyone that would like to speak under public comments this evening? Seeing none, we did receive a request for closed session. A motion to go into closed session to discuss the following subjects: personnel, collective bargaining, land acquisition or conveyance, pending or threatened litigation, discussion of minutes of closed session meetings, setting of a price for sale or lease of property owned by the public body.
So moved.
Second.
The motion, after which the meeting will be adjourned, sorry. The motion and seconded. Councilman Dickinson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Motion carried.